welcome to Low-sal-life. My name is Sarah, and on this channel we talk about anything related to salicylate sensitivity, which is something that I discovered about 3 years ago that I have. And I've always struggled with health issues, mostly stomach problems, lots of like headaches, migraines. I actually have a muscle disorder called dystonia. It's a levodopa responsive dystonia. And I've just always had issues with food, anaphylactic reactions and hives and all sorts of things. And since going low salicylate, all of those things have gone away. My dystonia, I would say, is in remission. I still have those, especially when exposed to perfumes. They just trigger almost instantaneously, but for the most part, I'm able to move around freely and not move when I'm not supposed to, and it's just been a huge relief. So I thought today that we would talk about how low is a low salicylate diet. And on this channel, I promise that we do a couple of things here. One is I find real research for you to look off of. So real research results, not just lists compiled because people, these lists have been, passed around and that's just historically what we use, but actual tests for food. I know it's crazy, but based on real science experiments. So that any clinical studies that we look at is real research. I can also tell you about what my personal experience is, and I can also tell you what I've heard or seen on salicylate forums. And beyond that, that is my realm of expertise. So just always keep that in mind. I'm never going to give you any advice other than, something that I've experienced myself or that I've read in research articles, because that's all I can do. Anyway, Happy New Year. Last week I was kind of grumpy, so that's why I didn't do a video, because sometimes you just need to take some time off and be real with yourself. So today I want to talk about how low is a low salicylate diet. I was doing some research, I was reading some research articles, and kind of looking at what the full range was. And I think that some people think that they go really low, but they don't really go low. They go low relative to what they might have been consuming. And, you have to think about, we can eat salicylates, we can inhale them, and we can absorb them. So if you do a low salicylate diet and you don't cut out air fresheners and perfumed lotions and mint toothpaste and things like that, you may see results. If you're extremely sensitive, just that drop in food might be enough for you. But for me, my inhaling them is my worst reaction. Although I have a lot of control over my diet, and that has helped a lot too for like the stomach problems, but the inhalation is a really big deal. And then of course, you can react just by your skin coming in contact with salicylates. I don't have those contact reactions where like I just break out into hives if something with salicylates touches my skin, like aloe, but I definitely have the reactions where it absorbs into your bloodstream, and then that will affect, like give me like heart palpitations or stomach issues. I get stomach issues if somebody has perfume. 45 minutes later, I'll be in the bathroom. It's so nice. I'm glad you smell good. So let's get started. First of all, I'll do a video on this in more detail, but I like the app Chronometer for tracking calories and nutrients. So it is free and it's fully functional at its free level. That's pretty good. So what I like about it is that I can put in all, everything that I eat in a day, track my calories, it's free. But besides that, it also gives me details on what my micronutrients are. And it obviously also tells me what my macronutrients are. So macronutrients are your fats, carbohydrates, proteins, alcohol, profile of what you consume in a day. And then your micronutrients are what are your actual vitamins and minerals that you're consuming. So it'll give that to you. All right, so this is kind of what it looks like when you get there at first glance. Here is just a typical day. Ooh, this one has cabbage. Oh, that was an example. I did not eat cabbage that day, especially for dinner. This here is, just a typical day. I tend to eat a lot of animal products, and I tend to prefer the higher fat profile. So this here, this is where it shows you your macronutrients. It shows you how many calories I consumed that day. And you can add exercise and all the other stuff. I don't really bother with that. I just really do it to keep track of food. And then you can also look at your micronutrients on it. So this is the last week's worth of food, and I didn't eat like super great this week. I was actually really quite under the weather, so I didn't eat very much. But you can kind of see that, I got a good amount of my B vitamins and stuff here. You can see what I got for protein. But what I like about this is, if my doctor says, oh, well, I was actually feeling really under the weather because I was on, time of month, Ladies Appreciation Day is what I call it, or week, depending on how many days you're out. This week I was out about 3 days, one with a migraine and then just the others with cramps, and that's just how things are. And sometimes they're great weeks, and then other months they're just terrible. So if my doctor, this is a conversation we've had with each other, if she's like, well, maybe you need to bump up your B6, maybe you're not getting enough of that, so let's put you on a B6 regimen. Then, I can look at my, like, oh, well, the last 7 days I was only at 50% on my B6, so maybe I could bump that up. That seems like it matches up with what she's saying. So like that kind of makes sense. And then I have issues with my iron. So I clearly wasn't getting enough iron. I'm always a little bit iron deficient. So I try and get these bumped up to like in the 70 to 100% range, especially like for, during my time of month, I want to make sure that those are a little bit higher on the high end, because I definitely need it. And worked with my doctor on that. So anyway, that's what I like about Chronometer, and we can talk about it more at a later date. So we're talking about how many salicylates do I eat in a day, and this is kind of where I'm going with this. So when I enter them, I usually enter them as a cup. So yes, I do eat a half a cup of cream every day. This particular day I actually had more down here. I think that was about a third of a cup. It keeps me full. It gives me really great energy. I have better weight management when I eat, when I have more cream than other times that I've tried to go with lower amounts. So that's kind of my sweet spot. That's one of my superfoods, that and butter. So, what are you gonna do? So here I'll put it in as a half a cup. And then I will, in order to use the calculator we're going to use, convert it to grams. And it's just really nice because in Chronometer, it just does it for you. So you don't have to do any conversions yourself. For my coffee, my decaf coffee, they don't have an option here to convert to liters, which for a fluid, we have to convert to liters. So if you're not familiar with the conversion of 24 ounces, you can just go to Google 24 ounces to liters. There you go. And it's going to be 0.71 liters. So that we'll need to remember that. So now that we know what we ate for the day, we can go to Low-sal-life, which is the website, and go to Living Life, and there's this salicylate calculator. And you can download that. It's over here, download as calculator. And this isn't anything fancy. I put a little disclaimer on that, right? It's not pure science. The calculations are good, but we're going to use the food product list, and you can look at a food, like for example, if we look at cream, I use the browser just to do Control F, and then you can find cycle through. So here, cream was tested, and Swain et al. Tested it at 0. So one thing to know about the food is that Swain et al. And some of the older studies actually only tested free salicylic acid. So that's basically equivalent to an aspirin. You take aspirin and those are free salicylates available for your body to consume right away. Malachar and some of the later studies tested free and bound. So that's going to test what is the full potential of that food that you're consuming, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's available for your body. So Malachar studies and some of the ones with free and bound tend to be a little bit higher than the traditional older studies that we used to look at. And it's kind of like vegetables, you know how they used to say, well, you know, eat them raw so you get all the nutrients, but then, you know, it's got that cellular wall around the outside of the plant, so you really can't break into that to actually get all the nutrients. So then they say that you should cook your vegetables so that that cellular wall breaks down so you can get all the nutrients. But then by the time you break into that cellular wall, some of those nutrients are lost, and then we don't actually know how many nutrients are in some of our foods that we eat. So just kind of think about that. Like it's not perfect. So anyway, so here we got cream. So let's pull up our calculator here. And I kind of already got it primed for us for time's sake. So this is what the calculator looks like. I've got if you downloaded this before, I did add the volume section, by the milliliter, milligrams per liter section. So this here has, the top one is by mass, the second one is by volume, and the last one is by just an example to use. So what I did was I took that food that I ate in that one day and I put them all in here, and this is kind of how I tallied up. I had 3 eggs, but Chronometer actually provides me the grams, so 150 grams of egg is what I had that day. And this here is an exception. This is that liter. I had 0.71 liters of coffee. So we looked at heavy cream, and that one is 0 units. And for Malachar, or the highest option for that food, doesn't exist. So we're going to go with the one example that we have. And this one here is just going to be by 0, but I'll just show you here. If we put in, I had 119 grams of cream, and Swain says that it's 0 milligrams per kilogram, which means that my total would be 0 milligrams of salicylic acid available. So I'm going to put that in there. And then since I didn't have a higher study of that, a higher level, I'm going to just leave that at 0, which is the same as Swain. For decaf coffee, we can look at, so I had 0.71 liters. So I can put that in here, 0.71 liters. And, I already put it in here. So we need to find out what the levels are. Okay, so this one's a little challenging because it's only instant decaf coffee available, and there's not a brewed decaf available. And I'd be really curious to see if brewed decaf actually is a little bit lower, because you're not consuming the whole thing, right? There's still a good portion of coffee left, the grounds, right? And I don't know. I think that maybe testing the instant's not the best option. But here it says that it can be as low as 0 for Swain's study, and here it can be as high as 2.05 milligrams per liter. So here's another decaf, same results, 2.05. I didn't see any other decaf. 1, 2, 3, decaf tea. Okay. So we'll go with those two levels, 0 and 2.05. So total amount of salicylates in food portion for Malachar would be 1.4. And we'll put that in there. And this was 0 and 0. Eggs, let's check that out. Oh. Egg. Yellow and white, 0. It has only been tested once. Okay, butter. Butter, I don't think has ever been tested, but I think it's presumed 0. Yeah, no, it's never actually been tested. But we know cream is 0 and it's an animal product and most of the dairies are 0. So we presume it's 0. So we'll put 0 in there. Of course, we're not talking about margarine or butter that's colored with annatto. Stay away from that stuff. So we're gonna presumed 0. We'll put NA there because that's really truly what it is. Okay, chicken, let's look at chicken. 0 for Swain. So that's going to be the same. What happened to my 0 there? Okay, cream, again, we have the same thing up here. Okay, and then leeks, we're finally hitting some vegetables. So leeks is one that used to be low. Here, 0.8 milligrams for Swain, and the Malacar has tested as a medium. So if you're one of those people that's like, I thought leeks were supposed to be good for me, and then you still react to it, I react to leeks. It could be because of this 410. So Swain is 0.8, and this is 410 for Malacar. So now we're gonna consume 26 grams. I remember having a little bit more that day than usual. 26 grams consumed times 0.8, so 0.02. Paste, and then we'll drop 4.1 in there. So 0.10, copy, paste, and cilantro, 22 grams. Did I say 22.2? Yeah, 22.22. And then we gotta go find the salicylate level for that. Okay, so here, yeah, coriander leaves. In the US, I'm pretty sure that this is the same thing. Coriander seed is very high, but the coriander leaves or cilantro has tested much lower. And I actually trust this level a little bit better than parsley. Parsley was kind of along the same lines where it's been lower, but now it's higher. Our pod does not recommend using cilantro even in small amounts, and it's possible maybe they combine sals and amines together. But to me, you know, I only have like 4 or 5 sprigs of it at a time. This one I was trying to kind of see if I could get away with a little bit more and do like a cilantro, kind of like a green cream sauce when I was making this. So yeah, so that's why I put in 10 sprigs of coriander. But I ended up not eating the whole sauce anyway. But we're just doing this, you know, to see what my max is for the day. So 2 milligrams. Okay, and then we've got a very low amount here. Copy and paste. So 0.2, and this is NA, and so we'll put this amount in as the max. Okay, and so that is basically what I consume in an average day. We'll see what it totals up for my dose for that day. So, and then let's see. I know there's a total one. There we go. Bold, bold. Okay, so here it's saying that I have, so just for some context, a baby aspirin has 80 milligrams of free salicylic acid. So you can consume that, it goes straight into your bloodstream. Per Swain's study, it says that I consume less than 1/10 of aspirin in a day. And that's free salicylic acid. Per Malacar, including the bound salicylic acid, I'm just under 2 milligrams during the day. And you have to remember that that's mostly coming from my cups of coffee. So I would never have 1.4 milligrams all at one time. I break that up, you know, every like 4 or 5 hours. I might have, you know, 0.7, you know, for my morning cup of coffee, and then I might have another one for my afternoon cup of coffee. So I would never have that at the same time, because that matters. If I have 2 cups of coffee, that's too much for me. I start getting the whooshy ear feeling and that kind of thing. So basically, for me personally, I need to consume less than 2 milligrams of free and bound salicylic acid. And of course, you know, that's staying on the high end, but here it's definitely, if you're just looking at the free salicylates, then it's less than 1 milligram. And I know for sure, because I have a very controlled environment, that I am also not consuming salicylates by breathing them in, inhaling them, or by putting them on my skin, because those are all completely salicylate free. So this is really the only variation that I have is from my diet. So just something to think about. If you have started a low salicylate diet and you know, you just kind of want to get an idea of how low is low for a person, this might kind of give you some context. If you haven't been able to drink coffee, decaf coffee, I know a lot of people react to it, and you don't have an amine issue, it might just be because it's too high for you. You might need to really be down below the 0.5 level for a daily intake, and that might work out great for you. So I think that's it. I hope you have enjoyed this for a demonstration of what I might eat in a day, and what that looks like for a normal level for salicylate sensitivity. You know, this isn't a perfect science because food varies and fluctuates, and so, you know, not to mention the types of studies that we have to show what the levels are. It's, you know, we've got the free versus free and bound. Both of these studies are from Australia. I live in the US. You know, things like that really do matter. If you're starting a low-sal journey, good luck, and I hope that this has helped you kind of get a little bit of a perspective. And that's all I have for today. You can find me on Instagram at low-sal-life, and I will see you next week. Bye.